America's new fish and chicken dinner.
What a nice idea.
What a nice prize.
Our new fish and chicken dinner. Two big favorites in one great meal.
Long John Silver's.
We only taste expensive.
It's 11 p.m. Do you know where your children are?
I promised you 4 years ago that I would never lie to you. So I can't stand here tonight and say it doesn't hurt.
The American voters have told President Carter to step down. Ronald Reagan will be our next president. The full story and more coming up.
Action news tonight with Atlanta's leading news team. Wes Sargentson, Monica Kaufman, sports with Jim Biondi, and meteorologist Johnny Beckman with the weather.
Good evening. When President Carter cast his ballot this morning, he said, win or lose, he would do what the American people told him to do. Tonight, the voters said, step down and return home to Georgia. And what's turning into an overwhelming victory, Ronald Reagan will be America's next president. So a little while ago, President Carter made his concession speech.
I promised you 4 years ago that I would never lie to you. So I can't stand here tonight and say it doesn't hurt. I have a deep appreciation of the system, however, that lets people make the free choice about who will lead them for the next 4 years. I've wanted to serve as president because I love this country and because I love the people of this nation. Finally, let me say that I am disappointed tonight, but I have not lost either love. Thank you very much.
Georgia did back its native son, turning out in record numbers to vote for him. Let's take a look at the latest figures. As you see, Mr. Carter, with 44% of the Georgia vote counted, is leading by 60%, but it didn't do him much good. Nationwide, he lost.
Georgians also decided that they want to keep their native son, Herman Talmadge, as their senator in Washington. Talmadge has an astounding vote total over Mac Mattingly, 59% to 41%.
Well, with these latest figures, it looks as if Senator Herman Talmadge has kept his seat in the U.S. Senate. So it's not surprising that Talmadge headquarters is a festive place tonight. Mark Bacart has been at Talmadge headquarters all night long and is there now with this live report. Mark, what's the reaction?
Monica, I think you could say that Herman Talmadge is a lot like a patient diagnosed to have a malignant tumor, and then come the operation, it turns out to be nothing more than acne. 3 times, forecasters have predicted possible doom for the senator, and it appears, if tonight's figures hold true, that 3 times Herman Talmadge has turned that predicted doom into a smashing victory. It appears that is what has happened this evening. Around 10:30 this evening, Senator Talmadge, accompanied by Governor Busby and his wife, Mrs. Busby, worked his way through the adoring crowd. He spent the evening up in his suite in the Hilton, checking the election returns, watching to see. He was, of course, cautiously optimistic, but he maintained that distance between him and declaring victory. Then when the urban counties started to come in, the counties like Chatham, which is Savannah, and Bibb County, which is Macon, and Muskogee, which is Columbus, by the way, which went in the previous 2 primaries to his opponents, he then realized that maybe he had something here. So he then came downstairs and he worked his way through the crowd, reached the podium. As you can see there, it was a crushing crowd. Some of his aides got up on top there to help him.
Thus far, we're leading with something more than 61% of the vote. If that trend continues, of course, later in the evening, I think we're going to be able to proclaim victory for the 3rd time this year.
Of course, Talmadge is not yet proclaiming victory. He told that to me just prior to his going upstairs. He will wait to see what the results are from the Atlanta urban counties, Fulton, DeKalb, Cobb, Gwinnett, before he really declares. But it appears now that it's all over but the waiting. Herman Talmadge has won a 5th term to the U.S. Senate. Wes, Monica?
Thank you, Mark. Things are very different, of course, on the other side of the ballot. Republican challenger Mac Mattingly and his supporters are, as you would expect, disappointed with tonight's results. Their planned victory celebration has not come off, and things are very quiet at the Terrace Garden Ballroom. Hank Philippi is there, standing by for this live report right now. Hank?
Well, Wes, up until about 10 seconds ago, Mac Mattingly was going to come down here and talk to us about what was happening this evening. His press secretary, who just, I think you saw walk in front of the camera just as we went on, came down just a moment ago to say that nothing has changed, that Mr. Mattingly has decided to stay up in his room for a while. In his race against Herman Talmadge, though, the cliche has been that Mac Mattingly has been the David fighting the Goliath. And tonight he still has that image. He's not just fighting the Goliath of Herman Talmadge, but also fighting the Goliath of the TV network projections. Here's what happened. At about 7:30, the networks predicted that Senator Talmadge would win. But at 10 o'clock, one of his press people came down to this podium, told the crowd that the numbers were coming in the way that they expected them to come in, and that Mattingly was not out of the running. And since then, they've been putting up more and more. Brian, can you show up here? More and more projections of the counties that they're winning. But obviously, those are very carefully selected counties, so we're not really seeing the whole projection of the state. So what we're going to try to do is get Mac Mattingly to come down and talk to us later in the program. We'll be here until the thing is over. Even though Senator Talmadge has made what's essentially been a victory statement, Mr. Mattingly, not Senator Mattingly yet, Mr. Mattingly is not saying that he's lost.
Okay, thank you, Hank. I think those projections could really get in the way of an electorate casting votes, because we were telling you earlier on in this evening that many people still hadn't cast their votes. People tend to want to vote for the winner. And when a network makes an announcement at 7:30 that it's all over, that Talmadge has won, folks out there in the lines know it, and it may change a few votes. I don't know. Anyway, Georgia Democrats won a major battle tonight, but most of them wish it had been for the presidency. As we told you a few moments ago, President Carter has lost his bid for re-election. Terry Anzer was at Carter-Mondale headquarters as the returns came in.
The TV screen only confirmed what pollster Pat Caddell had told the president as early as yesterday. He just did not have the numbers to win. Some blamed it on last weekend's developments in the Iran hostage situation.
This has been a very crazy election year throughout, and everybody's been puzzled.
For hundreds of Carter supporters in Atlanta, the party was over even before the bar opened. Reagan was projected an early winner in many northeastern and southern states that Carter needed. But Carter did not lose Georgia, and he did not lose the people who have been on his peanut brigades for more than 8 years, campaigning for him in the cornfields of Iowa and the snows of New Hampshire, and now keeping alive their hopes by selling campaign buttons that may soon be collector's items.
And I think if the American people have elected Reagan, they deserve him. They don't know what bad is yet. I'm hanging in there because I love Jimmy Carter.
Just don't ever give up. The science bound to do it again.
As the president appeared on TV to make his election night message, there was some talk of how often Jimmy Carter has compared himself to Harry Truman, and still some dim hopes that there would be a repeat of Truman's surprise victory in 1948. But in their hearts, Jimmy Carter's friends in Georgia don't really expect to wake up tomorrow and find that Jimmy Carter will be in the White House for another 4 years. Of course, Ronald Reagan is not from Georgia, but he does have some supporters here. Gary Reeves was with them tonight.
No, there was no terminal depression at the Reagan headquarters tonight. No heads hung low, no tears of sadness. Even though they lost horribly in the battle for Georgia, waged in the most part by aggressive conservative youngsters, they seem to have won the war, and they are ecstatic about it. And while a lot of Reagan supporters may be young people, kind of newcomers to politics, there's others who've been supporting the man since 1968. And as the early returns came in tonight, they saw their big payoff. There probably isn't a more staunch Reagan lady in all of Georgia than Margaret Holloman. She knows most of Reagan's Atlanta people because even back in 1968, she was recruiting them to go vote for Ronnie at the convention in Miami. And in 1980, her devotion to her man can best be measured by the hours she's invested in his campaign.
For the last 2 months, particularly about 12 hours a day. And for the last year, since we really got started with the primary last fall, 8, 10, 12 hours most days.
Some people would say that you're crazy if you put that much time into a campaign.
I don't think so. If I think it's going to make better government and a better world for my kids and my grandchildren, I happen to have 2 grandchildren, I don't think I'm crazy.
And it looks like all that hard work has paid off, because tonight, Reagan's folks are taking home the trophy they've been chasing for a full 12 years. Gary Reeves, Action News Tonight.
There are a lot of other political fates hanging on our votes tonight. We'll take a look at Georgia's other political races when Action News Tonight returns.
Bermuda, a bit of Britain that's right next door. Historic Bermuda, sporty Bermuda, fun-filled Bermuda. You can fly non-stop from Atlanta to Bermuda on a Delta Airlines wide-ride TriStar. And Delta's special fare is only $219 round trip. Just make your reservations and buy your tickets 7 days before you leave. Call Delta Airlines or see your travel agent. Next stop, Bermuda. Delta is ready when you are.
You know, Ralphie depends on us to feed him right. Right. So we feed him Jim Dandy Tender Moist Chunks. Is that a chunks? Yep, and it's got big beefy taste. Look, Ralphie likes it. And it's got the most protein, too. I don't see a protein. Well, you aren't looking right.
Give your dog the soft, moist chunks with the most protein. Jim Dandy Tender Moist Chunks. Tenderness at a sensible price.
Get your protein, Ralphie.
For Good Morning America, two's the one.
Two's the one for the most informative way to start your day with Good Morning America. Host David Hartman asks the questions you'd like to ask of the most interesting people in the world. Steve Bell reports the latest news and brings you face-to-face with the people who make news. John Coleman looks at the weather, and Joan London discovers information that you can use in your life every day. Two's the one for Good Morning America, weekday mornings at 7.
There are many other races and issues of major concern to Georgians tonight, not just the Senate and presidential battles. So we're going to take a look at some of those races right now, starting out with the 2nd District U.S. congressional race, Charles Hatcher and Jack Harold. As you see right now, with 56% of the vote in, Mr. Hatcher appears to be the winner. Moving to the 5th District congressional race, Weish Fowler, who you just saw on Channel 2, and William Dowda. Mr. Fowler is leading with 91%. Of the 24% of the votes that are in. West?
In the 6th District, Newt Gingrich, Congressman Newt Gingrich, appears to be going back to Washington. He is Georgia's only Republican with 37% of the vote counted. He's got about 59% of it. In the 7th District, Larry McDonald really didn't have much of a battle. Richard Castelucas, the Republican, only gets 24%. Larry McDonald, 76%.
Down in the 8th District, with more than two-thirds of the vote in, no problem for Billy Evans, the Democratic incumbent, over Darwin Carter. In the 9th District, also no problem for incumbent Ed Jenkins, with a little less than half of the vote in.
Looking at the 10th District U.S. congressional race, Doug Bernard, the incumbent, is having no problems winning. With 37% of the vote in, he's got 80%, so it appears he will be going back. And moving to the DeKalb County Commission chairman race, a hotly contested battle, but it appears that Manuel Maloof, but of course we only have 4% of the vote in, is doing exceptionally well with 86% of the vote.
In the DeKalb Commission at-large race, Brent Manning is winning re-election handily. Only 4% of the vote counted. He's got 81% of it. DeKalb Commission District 4, Jim Patterson, the incumbent there, has 74% over John Giffen.
Another interesting race out in DeKalb, the DeKalb County Superior Court Judge Keegan Federal. There's something wrong with those figures. 100% vote in, and nobody has any. Fulton County School Superintendent with 23% of the vote in. Mr. Grindle has no problem there with 74% of the vote.
Looking at the Fulton Superior Court clerk's race, Miss Barbara Price, who's been the clerk for 8 years, right now looks like she's going to hold on to the job with 23% of the vote counted. She has 82%. Mr. McClure, Wilson McClure, is way behind. Moving to the Cobb Commission Eastern District, it's what you call a classic upset. George Lankford, the incumbent, is trailing. Of course, we only have 1% of the vote in, but it looks like he's losing. We will have to wait until we get more in to decide.
And in the Cobb County Superior Court, Judge Luther Hames is apparently going back. He's got 59%, but only 1% of the vote counted right there, too, so we can't put much stock in those figures. And I thought we had some more Cobb Commission votes, but let's go right now to the Cobb County District Attorney race. We've got Huff beating Tom Sharon there. Sam Huff is leading with 60%, and again, it's only 1%. Those figures haven't changed in a long time.
Incumbent Tom Sharon is not doing very well. In the sheriff's race, Bill Hudson is beating Lee Chandler with 75% to 25%, but